Hey, Maria back with another video. It's 10:40 a.m. It is Thursday, March 26th, and I'm back with another video. What do you know? What else is there for me to do, right? Yes, I'm looking for work and, I'm getting all that done, but I'm going to do that this afternoon when I'm more focused, able to apply myself because during this time right now, I wake up in the morning and in my mind it's like I gotta get a job, I gotta get a job, I gotta get a job, and it's so what does it call it? I feel so pressured, that it's hard for me. I mean, I can deal with pressure, but this is like unreal, okay? But anyway, so I tend to focus better during this situation after I've had lunch, a pretty heavy meal. And then, especially beans for whatever reason tends to calm my mind. I don't know what it is, but it somehow it lifts my mood. There's certain foods that can lift your mood, okay? Beans are one of them, so I'm having beans for lunch. Of course, I'm eating a lot of beans these days because, well, we all know why Maria's eating beans, because they're cheap and because I've been put in this situation. But even before then, I was eating a lot of beans anyway because, I like beans. But anyway, so moving back to this conversation. So I was thinking a lot today about not so much about gang stalking, but more about the state of the world. Now, I remember when I was younger, this really isn't about bashing my perps or anything, but I remember when I was younger, I remember just making conversation. I remember there was a lot of circulation about, the end of the world and all these catastrophic things that would be going on. And there are some people who I consider to be kind of fanatical about, guessing who the Antichrist is and all this other stuff, right? And I've heard it so many times. I've heard Obama was called the Antichrist. I remember when Ronald Reagan was in office, people were saying that he was the Antichrist because they're like, when you break down his name, it's actually, I think it's like 666 or something. People are always speculating who the Antichrist is, and this whole, thing about the end of the world, okay? We don't know, okay? The Bible even says no one knows the day, the hour, when it's coming, okay? Because it's going to come like a thief in the night, okay? And I'm not somebody who likes to go off on Bible prophecy or anything like that because, obviously everybody knows Maria grew up very spiritual, and I'm still a very spiritual person. I really am. I don't ever want to come off as somebody who is like a holy roller or anything like that, because I'm not really. I have a very balanced view on spirituality and all that, okay? So let's just get that straight, right? But I do think, something is going on. Like something is going on, like this global thing is going on. And I think the coronavirus could just very well be like one big sign of it. But something is changing, okay? And it's been changing for a very, very long time. And so I kept thinking, this is not the time for people to be veering off into whatever kind of debaucherous shit that they're into. Like, whether that be gossiping, whether that be plotting, whether that be being, just a selfish person or whatever. I really think that it's a good time right now to evaluate where you are on a spiritual level. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not perfect. God knows I'm not. But I'm just saying is that there's so much going on in this world. And, I don't belong to a church, okay? And I'm not saying that people shouldn't. I think some people get a lot of great benefits from going to church. It does give you a sense of fellowship. Make sure that your leader is not autocratic, meaning that they're like just drawing attention to themselves, that they're really leading a spiritual flock in the proper direction. They're giving proper guidance, and they're sticking to certain biblical principles when they're giving you any sort of guidance or suggestions or whatever, okay? Make sure this is just not coming out of their ass, okay? Because there's a lot of people out there who are interested in misleading people, okay? For the bucks, for the whatever, they're just doing it. And so I'm not going to preach like one particular path, okay? There's all kinds of groups that are, and I want to kind of talk about denominations, okay, for a second, because we all know in the Christian faith, there's like a gazillion, okay? We have Pentecostals, we have Presbyterians, we have Methodists, we have Some people consider Catholics not Christian, but okay, we're going to throw them in there anyway. We got Lutherans, we have all these people, okay, Baptists, whatever you want to call it. All these different people. And it's basically, some groups have distorted things that were written in these texts to benefit themselves. And then some people are not really clear on the interpretations of what these things mean. So they are only going by what is, because there's a lot of things in the Bible, like we have the Old Testament, we have the New Testament, we have certain things that were said at one time, and then when Jesus came, things kind of changed a little bit. What was relevant at the time before, like in the Old Testament or whatever, is it still relevant now? Is what they're saying, So there's a lot of different talk or discussions about what's what. All right. So, but anyway, and I'm not basically saying that people have to go to church. I'm not even saying, all I'm saying is, or any, whatever religious group that you belong in. Okay. Whatever, I don't know, whatever it is people belong in or whatever. But now I think it's a time to really evaluate where you are spiritually, regardless of what church you belong to. Where are you as an individual? Where are you spiritually? I think that's really important. Okay. I'm not saying, telling you what to join or what kind of church you're supposed to join or what kind of group you're supposed to join. Okay. Personally, I think a lot of it, because there's so many different denominations, a lot of it is just, what do you call it? Just humans trying to figure things out. Okay. Some people go to non-denominational churches, and what those are just people who realize that there is a God. They don't claim to know all the answers because, you know what, there's theologians and whatnot who've been studying the Bible for years and years and years and years, and they don't even all have all the answers. It's a very complex thing, okay? You see what I'm saying? So it's not something that, I'm trying to judge, okay? But all I'm saying is, whatever you choose to believe, whatever it is you choose to align yourself with, make sure you understand what you're doing. At least understand why you're a part of it and be able to explain the foundation of it. Otherwise, you're just a hypocrite. All right. But anyway, back to these world conditions. It's like I just feel like things are so. They've always been chaotic. They've always been bad. Okay, but when you go out onto the street and you see signs of desolation, okay? When you go into places where it used to be stocked and full and now all of a sudden things are scarce or whatever, you got people wearing masks on their face and they got gloves on. And it's not just in your area, it's going on everywhere, okay? It starts to really make you think. You know what I mean? So no, I don't want to ever come off like I'm so much better than everyone. I'm not, okay? It's just that when I went to church, I didn't find this spiritual fulfillment that I get on my own. You know what I mean? I really do feel like this extreme connection all my life. I've felt it all my life. And I don't need other people to help me get that. I don't need it. Now, some people do, okay? Not everybody is as spiritually inclined as other people. They're not, okay? They might have appreciation for trying to be good, even though no one's good but God. But they want to do right. They want to be good people. They do. But they know deep down inside, because we are all born out of sin, they know that they do things that are wrong. We all do, okay? We all do. No one's perfect. But they sometimes struggle. And sometimes they go to churches because the churches, give them a helping hand. There's nothing wrong with being charitable as a church, okay? But if you are only relying on a particular spiritual foundation because you're getting things and that's it, then you have to question where you are standing, okay? Because sometimes we don't always get material things. We don't always get them. And I think sometimes one of the things I have an issue with prosperity preaching is because it kind of conflicts with a lot of the things that at least I understand, okay? Because I know, the Bible talks about it is more likely for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to inherit the kingdom of God. Now, that's not saying that, there's nothing wrong with having wealth, okay? But sometimes when you are wealthy and you're content with your spiritual, with your earthly life, okay, you're not as reliant, you're not as humble, you're not as open to being more spiritual towards God, and you're placing a lot of emphasis. It's easy for a lot of people to put a lot of emphasis on these material things that you can't take in the next world. You can't take them with you. Okay, so and it's not something that's guaranteed. And just like I said, ooh, I almost fell. We are people who are trying to serve God or try to live an a heavenly life or whatever. Really don't want to be a part of the world. It's like you're in it, but you don't want to be a part of it. It's like, we have to pay our taxes. We got to work. Okay. We have to sometimes be among people who might live their life in a horrendous manner. We have to sometimes, associate with I would like to use the word associate, but sometimes we have to commingle with people that are not as what do you call it? Who aren't striving to do what's right. Okay, we have to do these sort of things. We have to exchange things. We have to live in a world where, we can't escape it. All right, we have to function in it, but we don't have to be inundated with it. We don't have to allow ourselves to lower our standards. Our whatever that is. So, and that's what that's the stance I've taken. Okay, I know, like I said, I don't endorse one religion over another. I don't. I'm not saying that the Methodist is going to heaven and the Baptist is going to hell. I'm never going to say something like that. I'm not ever going to say something that I do think that it's based on your understanding. Like your understanding, like the Bible, it has been interpreted gazillions of times. Okay, there's several different versions of it, and I know I've cross-referenced certain like biblical text or whatever, and I can see where people can get off on certain things, or where they can get there's like misunderstandings or whatever, because it's all in the wording. If you change one word out of something, it can change an entire meaning to what it seems like something different. You know what I mean? So I can understand these little details, okay? I can understand these little things that people get hung up on, but I really don't think it should be focused on that intensely, because all you can do on secondhand information that has been translated is do the best you can. I think this is what some of these denominations are trying to do. They're doing the best they can, okay? So anyway, I'm not bashing Christianity. What I am bashing is, like I said, people who abuse Christianity or use it as a way of manipulating people. That's what I have an issue with. And like I said, I don't consider myself to be really any religion. I don't, okay? That's just me. I just prefer to have a relationship with God, and that's really it. I don't like defining it or anything like that, and that's just how it is, okay? There's nothing scriptural that says I have to either, okay? Because even the word Christian is man-made, okay? That is a term that is man-made. It's not something that is necessarily biblical. So anyway, so yeah, I'm thinking about that. It's like, I reevaluate certain things that I do, and there are certain like Christian groups that, for example, okay, kind of lean towards certain ideas on what people are supposed to be like, okay? Like, I've seen some Pentecostal women, okay, who don't wear jeans. They don't wear jeans. They don't wear stretch pants. I don't even think they wear like tennis shoes, even though I don't really wear tennis shoes, but still, they don't do a lot of the things that a lot of everyday women do. Okay, they don't. They might even just braid their hair. You've seen them. They braid their long, beautiful hair in like one braid, and they don't do anything with themselves, okay? But that doesn't mean that that's necessarily, I understand what they talk about, like being like vanity. Like if there's some things about vanity that some people feel like it's not something that they want to get involved in. Okay, I personally think that there should be a balance there. Like I think, if you put too much emphasis on one thing, then I can see where that's an issue. Okay, but I see a lot of other Christian women who go out and they have expensive handbags or whatever, and there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But if they are putting it more emphasis on that to where they are letting other things go, like for example, they want this beautiful Prada bag, which I don't even really know what that is, but I've heard the name before, a beautiful expensive Prada bag, but they're letting their electricity go out, they're letting their lights be turned off, they want to get their nails done, so they're going to get their nails done, but their kid needs diapers, so they're going to use a washcloth instead because they really want to get those nails done. That's an issue, okay? That's a huge issue, okay? So you have to decide, if it's affecting your ability to take care of your family, if it's doing this sort of thing. You might be placing too much emphasis on this. Do you have to be as extreme as the Pentecostals? Not necessarily, but that's their path to go in that direction. And they have a right to. You know what I mean? For some people, that's what they are. That's what they do. And I see other religious denominations that are not so, strict on that issue. So it's not a matter of picking out or trying to say, well, they're right, they're wrong. No, to their understanding, they choose to be that way. Just like the Amish or other religious groups, like some people don't believe in electricity, using any form of modern technology. Some people, there are some religious groups that look at people like us, even though I'm not really like into technology, but they look at us like, how could you be a part of that? Like you're a part of this, whether they feel like they need to be out there churning butter by hand and milking cows early in the morning and doing all this other stuff that we wouldn't dare do because, we have the convenience of going to the supermarket and doing these sort of things. But to them, they want to live this sort of lifestyle because it's wholesome to them. And it's like a form of humility to them. Does that mean that we are not as good as the Amish or whatever? No, but based on their understanding, this is what they're required to do. This is what they choose to do. Does that mean that we're sinners because we would prefer to buy sticks of butter instead of churning it ourselves? No, not necessarily. Okay, it's just that we all have these different denominations. We all have limitations. Some people have certain rules in their denomination. Some people don't, okay? And so the whole goal is not to judge that. It's not to judge it. It's not for us to judge. I'm not going to judge the Pentecostal women, or even some people they don't like Mormons. They don't consider Mormons Christians. They don't consider them Christians at all. And so, but for me and how I look at it, it's like, well, they have a right to practice their religion. They have a right to practice their religion. Whether they're right or whether they're wrong, that's between them and God. And it's not for me to sit there and tell them that they're wrong. Okay. Now, if you want to get into a friendly discussion with a person who has a religious view that's different than yours, then have that discussion. Okay. But don't come off condescending. Don't come off like, whatever. I'm going to say there's certain things in that faith, and I've studied it too when I was younger. I mean, I was very interested in Mormonism when I was younger, only because they had so many different beliefs that were so much different than mainstream Christianity. Okay. So, of course, I had an interest in it, okay? But it's interesting. It would just interest me, okay? I didn't say I was going to convert. It's just something I'm taking an interest in this. But it's not for me to point the finger, bash them, or, tell them that they're going to hell. The only person who knows that, what I mean? Even though it doesn't, we don't know what is in their heart. And with their limited understanding, I don't know that. I don't know that. So I dare not say something like that. For a human being to cast judgment on another person, it's like do you think you're God? You don't have the right to cast the judgment on these people. You don't. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean you have to point the finger at these people. They have the right to live and see God the way that they want to. You see what I'm saying? It's about I personally want to have a very peaceful existence in this world. Okay. And I personally think that whatever path a person's on, that is the path they're supposed to be on. You know, whether right or wrong. And if it's their spiritual, in their spiritual map, you know, to veer off into a different direction, then that's the lesson that they need to learn. Sometimes you have things happen in our lives that bring us into a certain level of understanding. Even the most chaotic, strange things that we never think have any spiritual benefit at all. Like when I was younger and I had a child out of wedlock, right? Now, I'm sure my family fucking hated me for that one, right? But I will say this. Some order came out of that chaos because it allowed me to open my mind and say, you know what? I need to do something. Okay, I need to do something. I can't. See, it was all well and good for me to live my life the way that I was living my life when I didn't have a child, to have another person to care about, right? And as far as I knew, I maybe I would have spent my entire life hitchhiking or doing something weird like that. I probably would have. I maybe would join a commune or something. I don't know what I would have done without my child. But I had a child, so I had something I wasn't going to let my son, you know, be stuck in my chaotic world. So I did something about it. Now, what started off as something that people would look at as a sin turned out to be something beautiful. So it's not for other people to judge what other people do. You know, let people go their way. Let them, you know, unless of course they're dangerous. You know, they're creating danger to other people. You know, like for example, they're putting other people's lives in jeopardy or something like that. Then you might want to have a discussion with them, okay? But I personally just feel as though people's lives are supposed to be lived out for whatever reason. You know what I mean? It's their journey. It's their life path. That's their life path that only they can walk. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, I was just doing too much thinking today. Just too much thinking, you know? And but that's what I do. I think a lot, you know? So anyway, it looks like we're heading up to lunchtime in about an hour or so. And I'm going to prepare some lunch and then get back to the job search, you know? Just keep plugging away. In this chaotic world, I don't know what people are doing about the coronavirus. I was thinking about see, I'm not one of those people who need to wear a mask, okay? I figure, you know, if it's going to get me, it's going to get me, whatever, and, you know? But I kept thinking, you know, I got this extra fabric, you know? Wouldn't it be kind of cute to make some cute little mask to wear? You know, because I got plenty of Velcro, and I kept thinking, okay, I can make it designed this way. I could make it with like little birds on it, polka dot mask. At least you can make it a little bit cheerful. You know what I mean? Because I was looking at some of these people's masks, and I kept thinking, okay, obviously there's not plastic. What is preventing it? Is it just material that's coming over their mouth and their nose? Because they got to breathe, right? So what is it? If it's that, you know, I'm thinking, why don't you make some cute mask? You know what I mean? Something that's going to cover but also liven the mood a little bit. It was an idea. I just might do that. Wrapping up this video. Be back with another video later. Take care. Bye-bye.